You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I'm joined by Mr. Baseball, Derek Vandygriff. And this spring is not the best spring in the world for him, but he is still Mr. Baseball, and he has all the answers. How are we doing, Derek?
Man, doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing outstanding, honestly. I wish the baseball team was going a little bit better, but other than that, I've had a really good month.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got good news for you then, Stephen, because this is the 4 weekend stretch over this next month where the Rebels get hot and we make a run to the postseason to kind of bolster your mood a little bit. Rebels are about to get some things going. Schedule lightens up a little bit, so I think we're going to have a really fun month here with baseball.
Well, the one problem that I am concerned about, and we'll say that, is that I am concerned about getting swept by Texas A&M. Why am I crazy for being worried about that?
Well, you're not crazy at all for being worried about that. Texas A&M, maybe the best team in the country, if not definitely one of the top 3 to 5 teams in the country, right? We do get them at home, so that helps a little bit. But at the same time, you can look on the other hand. Ole Miss at home hasn't been quite as good as you would hope for out of a baseball team, right? That needs to be an advantage for you that we haven't gotten so far. But it does lighten up a little bit though. We've got Alabama coming up. Go to Auburn, who's last in the league. Still a pretty good team now, but they are last in the league, and it is on the road. But before A&M comes into town, so what Ole Miss needs to do, they really need to get some momentum going these next 2 weekends. Need to take 2 out of 3 against Alabama, and at least go get 2 in Auburn. And if you do that, then it really shapes up to where you have a clear picture of what you got to do the last 2 weekends to get an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament and, kind of build a little bit of confidence before you get into that huge series against Texas A&M and Oxford.
So, Ole Miss baseball in the league, are they 6-12?
Yeah. 6-12 going into this weekend.
6-12. So, what's the number required to get Ole Miss into the dance? What does Ole Miss need for an NCAA trip?
Yeah, we broke this down Sunday on Dids in the Dugout. It's really pretty simple. You got to win 2 against Alabama, go get 2 in Auburn, get 1 against Texas A&M, and then win 2 in Baton Rouge to close out the year. And that last part people may scoff at a little bit, but LSU hasn't played particularly well this year. They've really struggled pitching the ball. And quite frankly, when you look at it, as much trouble as Ole Miss has had historically in Baton Rouge, we've won 5 out of 6 down there. So we got a little momentum playing in Alex Box Stadium. So, but yeah, if you take 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 1 out of 3, and then 2 out of 3 again, then that gets you to 13-17. With our metrics, we're going to be a top 20 RPI team. We were number 2 in strength of schedule. Not sure if we've gone down any in the last few days since last time I looked at it was Sunday. But yeah, I mean, if you get to 13-17, the big one is the Governor's Cup against Mississippi State. It's technically a non-conference game. It doesn't go on your conference ledger as far as record goes. The committee has always looked at that as a conference game, though. That's what really got us going there in 2022. We lost the series to State, won the Governor's Cup though, and that 14-16 turned into a 15-16 and ended up getting us into the tournament. With RPI, strength of schedule, those kind of metrics we have in our favor right now. If we finish 13-17, win the Governor's Cup, that's basically 14-17 as far as the committee's concerned. And at that point, I think we're definitely in. Obviously, nothing's a shoe-in when it comes to being an at-large team and being on the bubble. But if we do those things, I feel really, really good about our chances of getting into the postseason.
What do you think is the realistic shot? Is Ole Miss a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah. Now, if it all plays out the way I just laid it out, yeah, I think we're looking at something really similar to 2022, right? Which was one heck of a year for Ole Miss baseball, and it's kind of funny the dynamics of this season and that season. Yeah, 2022, we were, at one point the number one team in the entire country. We knew we had all of this talent, just couldn't quite get it going the way we needed to until later on in the year. But we're 6-12. If you get to that 13-17 mark with the numbers that I've just laid out, I think we can make a pretty good run here. Now, as far as chances go, I understand people that say that they wouldn't bet on it. I would. I still believe in this team. I think we have enough depth. I think we got guys coming around at the right time too. Luke Hill's really starting to swing the bat well. I know he got dropped in the lineup. I don't think that was performance based though. If you look back at his performance since the conference slate started, it's been better than it's been all year long. I really like the swings he's taking at the plate. We just got JT Quinn back. He's going to be a big arm for us, whether that ends up being in the rotation or out of the bullpen. The thing that I want to keep an eye on right now is Mason Nichols. He didn't pitch last weekend. Apparently had a stiff shoulder. I hadn't heard anything about that until the weekend had come up last weekend. But hopefully it's nothing too serious. He's able to get back out there. And then, if he's able to take over that Sunday role, slide back in there and pitch the way he's been pitching, then you can bring JT Quinn in. And, I think he could really be a weapon out of this bullpen if he can go max effort, 2 innings at a time, something like that, instead of worrying about stretching himself out to get through 5, 6 innings like a starter normally would. So we're starting to get a little healthier than we have been all year long. And now with these guys back, now they've got to get on the field and they got to produce.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. When we come back, I will let you know exactly why Ole Miss is going to sweep this weekend. No, I'm just kidding. But I do think winning 2 out of 3 is in the cards. Anyway, guys, I need you all to listen up for this huge announcement. I've been tracking the leaderboards every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart in it, and I'm super pumped to announce I'm finally on top. That's right. Obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard about it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It is a great mobile twist on the classic Monopoly, and you can play anytime and anywhere. You can explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Vegas to Camelot to the freaking moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. You can charge rent on classic properties just like Monopoly, the board game, or go after your friend's money by pulling bank heist and taking a wrecking ball to their landmarks. But my favorite part is the leaderboards, where you can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and who's a wannabe. So get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and Google Play. Also, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all that yelling and shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you each and every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming and yelling. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinion, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. All right, Derek. I think that Ole Miss needs at a minimum to get 2. They really need 3 because I just think Ole Miss needs some margin for error going into with that Texas A&M series and with playing on the road at LSU. There's just too many weird things that can happen in that. Ole Miss needs some margin for error, and where they get that is by sweeping Alabama or sweeping Auburn.
And you're 100% right. When I laid out the scenario going 2-2-1-2, that's bare minimum, and that leaves us no margin for error whatsoever if we have any sort of postseason aspiration. So you're 100% right on that. Anywhere you could pick up a sweep, pick up an extra game to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room there at the end of the schedule would obviously really help with A&M coming in town and then going to Alex Fox Stadium, which is obviously a very difficult place to play. So yeah, I mean, if we could win, 3 this weekend or 3 next weekend. Obviously, what you're wanting, you're going into this. You want to go 5-1 over the next 2 weekends. That's what you're looking for before A&M comes into town. Now, if you don't go 5-1 and you only go 4-2, you're still alive. But to your point, that gives you no margin for error whatsoever. So yeah, if we could work in a sweep over either of these last 2 weekends, that would be a big help and also boost the confidence of this team right now.
And this being the home game against Alabama versus being on the road versus Auburn, this is kind of a do or die weekend, right?
I kind of hesitate to use the term do or die, obviously. But because if we don't sweep this weekend, or if we only win one this weekend, I can still lay out a scenario for you for us to get to the postseason. And as unpredictable as baseball is, it might end up coming to fruition. Uh, However, it makes it incredibly, incredibly difficult if you don't get at least two from Alabama this weekend. So yeah, I would I would really like to get to be able to stay as positive and confident as I am that this team is going to end up making a run because I really do, Steve. And I think we have talent up and down this roster. They just haven't come together. They haven't been playing the kind of baseball that they're capable of playing, especially defensively. That's obviously been what's killed us all year long. I know we've talked about it a good bit all throughout the year. Clean up the mistakes and pitch it well. Avoid that one big inning. That's what's really killed us here in the last couple months. Is we've really been in games up until we give up an 8 spot in the 6th inning, 7th inning, something like that to really put it out of reach. So keep it close and try to come up with some timely hits. That's another thing we haven't been doing. And it's kind of funny sitting here talking about it. Don't give up the big inning. Don't make errors. Come up with the big hit. These are all small things that make ginormous differences in games. And right now, we're not doing any of them very well. But again, there's such small parts of the games that it's stuff that you can do well. And if you do, this season's completely turned around. So really looking forward to this weekend though, and hopefully they can turn those small things into our favor to start stacking some wins here. That's really all we need, start stacking conference wins.
Yeah, and if you're like I said, get 2 against Alabama. It doesn't matter how you do it. Doesn't matter what the score is, because if you get less than 2, this becomes a math problem.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's again mathematically I can still get you there, but as I'm sitting there telling you the math problem and how it works out, that's when people start laughing at you and running you out of the building. Right? It's like, yeah, you'll have Texas A&M come into town, and you got to take 2 from them, then go sweep LSU and sweep Auburn, and that gets pretty difficult there. One thing I am really excited that I wanted to bring up about this weekend though. TJ McCants makes his return to Oxford. Look, Ole Miss doesn't win a national championship without TJ McCants. Not that he was the most important player on that team, but when Ole Miss needed a big hit in the postseason, it was TJ McCants coming off the bench and hitting a bomb against Southern Miss, or in the College World Series there, even in Game 2 with his hit up the middle to get Cade Horton off the dang mound so we could see somebody else. TJ was a really good player for us. Seemed like a really good guy. Obviously, I never met him, never talked to him or anything, but he came here, had a lot of adversity through his career too. It's well documented what he went through with his mother going through treatments and all during his time in Oxford, particularly those last couple years there. But then ending it with the national championship and everything too. So really excited for TJ. He's having success at Alabama. He's put together a really good year over there. So super happy for him. Glad he's coming back to Oxford, and just really hope he's greeted the way that he deserves to be when he comes up to bat for the first time Thursday night.
Yeah, once the applause stops for TJ McCants and everything, Ole Miss pitchers should throw nothing but back foot sliders to him all
Yep.
weekend.
Sliders over the back foot every single time. But
Mhm.
but before that, standing ovation.
Yeah, before that, standing ovation.
Yeah, if you want to do a video for him, whatever. But just I really hope that he is welcomed back warmly in Oxford his first time, because he was a big part of the success we had while he was here, and in particular that national championship run. So excited he gets back, and I know the fans will do the right thing, welcoming him back the right way.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you so much, Derek Vandygriff, Mr. Baseball, talking about the Ole Miss Rebs. They've got the Alabama Crimson Tide this weekend. It's double-decker weekend. If you are out and about in Oxford, be careful and be prepared for delays. But, Derek, thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next week, bud.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll be here. And then for everybody out there, we're going to do Dids in the Dugout later today. And I will also have an interview with JT Quinn later on tonight, too. So y'all make sure to check all that out.
Nice. Very good. Take care, bud.
Howdy, bud.
Howdy, dotty.